And right now at 5 o'clock, former Transportation Secretary and South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg joined hundreds of protesters urging state lawmakers not to redraw Indiana's congressional districts. Good evening, everyone. I'm Phil Sanchez.
And I'm Gina Galeros. Buttigieg headlined one of the largest protests against redistricting to date. NewsAid's government reporter Garrett Bergquist was there. He's here to show us just how big that protest got. Garrett.
Yeah, you can see there were protesters on all three levels of the State House atrium. There's still no final go or no go from Republicans. Buttigieg and Democrats say that alone shows Republicans don't want to redraw the maps mid-decade. Buttigieg's name has been floated as a possible 2028 contender for president. For now, though, he's focused on what might affect next year's elections.
And we know why they're doing it, which is because the agenda of Washington Republicans is so unpopular that even here in Indiana, they are afraid of losing if they have to run on a fair map.
About 300 to 400 protesters packed the State House's north atrium. They say any attempt to redraw Indiana's congressional districts ahead of next year's midterms denies them fair representation.
How is it they can justify in defending the Constitution, taking an oath to the Constitution, that I do not deserve a voice?
We need to wait for a census like we have in the past, and then if redistricting is called for, that's understandable. But I think just to get it to where Republicans are going to win votes is just very sad for our state.
Governor Mike Braun on Tuesday said, based on public comments by Republican lawmakers, it's increasingly likely he will call a special session to redraw the maps. He says if he does, the session would take place between early November and the beginning of the regular session in January. He says he still won't call a special session unless he gets a clear signal from both the House and Senate Republican caucuses. Buttigieg and other Democrats urged protesters to call and write to Republican state lawmakers, telling them to leave the congressional maps alone.
I started reading between the lines in some of the things that our Indiana State House Republican members are saying or not saying, and I realized they are in fact ashamed of what they're doing. They ought to be ashamed, and they are.
I asked the offices of House Speaker Todd Huston, Senate President pro tempore Rod Bray, and Governor Mike Braun for comment on today's protest. None of them responded. I'm Garrett Bergquist for Wish TV and WishTV.com.